Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. So, first off, I have the winner to announce. Now, a lot of you got the answers right, so I need to step up my game for next time, and there will be a next time for these sorts of prizes, I promise. But for now, the winner is Alexander Carl. I hope I'm saying that right. So, all you need to do is reply to your original comment with your email address, and I'll get it sent off. Thanks. I will try and do these sorts of giveaways more often, so stay tuned for more to come. This video though is going to cover the last of the Italian tanks so far. Because there's only one tier 7, I'm going to include it with tier 6 this time, so let's get into them. As always, I really hope you enjoy. So, first off today is the Centauro ROMOR. Very similar to the previous variant, this one comes equipped with a ROMOR ERA package and APF-SDS. Its stock round is the M735, which is the same as the M1 Abrams as well. Functionally though, it's just not very impressive. All it is a slightly more sluggish Centauro at a much higher BR with a better penning round. The most useful aspect of the previous Centauro was probably the speed, as at 8.0 it was pretty much the quickest thing on the battlefield. At 9.3 though, and with an extra 3 tons, its speed comparatively becomes a bit less impressive, with most standard MBTs keeping up good pace with it, especially on sandy and snowy maps. Additionally, the ERA package is a bit useless. I've only had it function for me when taking a chemical round at a pretty extreme angle, which rarely happens. If hit flat, the ERA can't even negate HESH. Pretty much all heat rounds just pass right through it as well. On top of this, it can also hull break, even with ERA. Though this is inconsistent at best, so it doesn't really matter. The only benefit of the ROMOR over the normal Centauro is that it does get DM33 as its final unlockable round, which makes penning certain tanks a bit easier, but it doesn't really help the vehicle's overall performance. In fact, its performance hasn't really improved much over the regular B1 at 8.0. At 9.3, everything is scaled up, you can pen pretty much anything. But when you unlock all the rounds for the regular Centauro, you can also pen pretty much anything. It's just this time around you're fighting better vehicles with a lot more stabilizers floating around. This one really does struggle, especially when stock, as you are very slow with the extra weight on top. Like the previous Centauro though, it is still artificially survivable, and this will usually allow you to pick up a few kills at least in my experience. The darts you'll likely be getting shot by will rarely spool that much, so you'll rarely actually get one shot, so it is decently forgiving in that regard. As for playstyle, it is a little different to the previous Centauro despite how similar they are. Your speed is no longer an overwhelming advantage. The MBTs you'll fight won't match you in speed, but they're quick and capable enough to catch you out before you manage to get a good flanking spot most of the time. It's possible, sure, but not always viable. For consistency, this one is pretty much delegated just to sniping. It is good at it though. The dart is easy to aim, and your responsive reverse gear will be enough to dip you out of sight pretty quickly. I've had the most success with it personally as a late game spawn, zipping around the map, getting caps and cleaning up the weaker enemy vehicles. Additionally, I wouldn't really consider taking it out as a first spawn unless you're on a map where flanking is definitely viable. So, pros: fast, good firepower, and in some instances, survivable. And the cons: unfavourable BR, and weak to autocannon fire. Verdict: consider it, and loosely speaking, consider it. At the moment, its only place is as a backup for 9.7 or 10.0, and on top of that, it's only really viable when spaded. So the question is really, is it worth grinding out and spading this vehicle when all it's really good for is a second or maybe even third spawn? I'd honestly say it isn't really worth it, but if you are someone who likes the more mobile playstyle, it might be up your street to give it a go. And honestly, I think this thing could be pretty good if it lost DM33 and was bumped down a BR or two, as at the moment it just doesn't really have a place where it can shine outside of being a backup. Right, next up is the famous OTOMATIC, and that fame is well deserved, part NTR and part tank destroyer. When the conditions are right, it is incredibly potent. It's equipped with a variable time fuse, HE round for attacking aircraft, and a researchable APF-SDS belt. It only gets 12 rounds though, but as you can fire 2 rounds a second, you're pretty much guaranteed a few kills if you land the first one right. As it's only a 76mm gun though, the penetration of the darts isn't as impressive as other contemporary rounds, but good knowledge of weak spots combined with the incredible firing speed will treat you very well. There are of course a few downsides though, notably this thing's size, it's an absolute house. Because of this, it can't really hide anywhere or engage on certain maps reliably. Additionally, if you fire the APF-SDS as fast as you can, the accuracy will drop off considerably after only firing about 3 rounds. They'll start spinning off in all directions, so you need to be careful while playing it. It's not so much high risk, high reward, as it is purely situational, and when put in a specific location it does very well in, you'll get incredible results. This of course is the same for all vehicles, but as the automatic isn't the most versatile, it either works or it doesn't, whereas other conventional vehicles will broadly work anywhere. So the first hurdle is the stock grind. You're really only limited to going after aircraft, as the APF-SDS is a tier 4 modification which takes a lot of time to grind through. I talisman mines, it was a bit quicker, but it still took a fair while. Second hurdle to overcome is, again, your size and your lack of armour. The automatic is so big that it can easily be spotted and attacked, and as the breach is so huge, it will usually get disabled after a single shot. Additionally, sadly, turning off the radar currently won't make it fold back down to reduce your height, just stop it moving, which is still an improvement as the average War Thunder player won't notice you if you don't move, so turning it off if you are going tank hunting will work. Additionally, look for urban environments, or to generalise, areas with lateral cover that you can hide behind. The automatic works best in ambush, where you can dissect the crew after disabling a vehicle's movement or firepower functionality, or just play with friends or around other teammates, where you can take advantage of distraction very well. I'd say only go tank hunting when you get the APF-SDS belt. The pseudo APHE round can kill tanks from the side, but you need a perfectly flat angle most of the time, and it just isn't reliable. You can take out BMPs and other IFEs pretty easily of course, but there's no guarantee you're actually going to come across them. A boring but effective way to grind out darts is to do what I did and sit in tank assault, do something else, and just at the start of every round take out the 2 incoming aircraft and just rinse and repeat. Or take it into arcade to grind, as there's practically a guarantee you will see aircraft. Additionally, regarding your ammo, you generally want to have the APF-SDS rounds selected first, so they reload first when you're on a cap. But the annoying thing about this is that if you spawn in and there's helis to shoot at, you're losing a dart, and this might not seem like much, but it could save your life. If you have the darts unlocked, what I do is take full darts, full HE, and put 1 single APHE round first, followed by the darts. This way, if there's helis, you can fire that round and equip the HE, and if there isn't, you can equip the darts without losing one. This way you have a good reloading order, while also not losing out on any potential kills. So, pros? Great anti-air ability, and great anti-tank ability. And the cons? Poor stock grind, poor versatility, and, well, it's huge. Verdict? Get it. Its anti-air potential is fantastic. Despite the missiles currently in the game, it can take out aircraft, helis at incredible ranges, and the shrapnel distance on the explosion of the round is massive, so you don't even really need to be that accurate. If you can put yourself in a good spot with a dart belt, you will absolutely mop up kills. Additionally, it's just fun. It's one of those vehicles where you don't feel bad about dying in. It's not an MBT, and there's not really an expectation to carry the team and get a lot of kills, so it's quite relaxing to play too. Absolutely get this one. Next up is the OF40 Mark II. This is basically what the Leo A1A1 is to the Leo 1, roughly the same vehicle armour-wise, but with a stabiliser and an APF-SDS round. The Mark II, however, has more than double the turret rotation of the regular OF40, which does really make a difference. The OF40 Mark II itself is basically just a better Leo A1A1. They're about as mobile, with only slight differences in acceleration, and they also get the same primary rounds as well. However, over the A1A1, the OF40 has nearly double the turret traverse rate, a laser rangefinder instead of a regular one, and much better armour, relatively speaking. This one has been just such a joy to play, to be honest. I had to put a talisman on mine. It's a proper tank, in that it covers all areas. It's quick, has good ammo, and has decent armour for what it is. Obviously darts and heat will still cut right through, but the weaker guns will struggle a bit, whereas they largely won't on the Leo 1. Because this tank is so capable, there's not really a lot of advice I can give on it. As I've annoyingly said before, you do already know how to play a tank like this. How capable you are in a vehicle like this one just really comes down to common sense and map knowledge. You're capable of sniping if you know the good spots, you're capable of brawling as long as you don't do anything silly, and you're capable of flanking if you know the best routes. I've had the most success though by hovering around a hot area, and I don't mean sexy hot, I mean active hot. So find a generally well-populated area, find some cover and just react to the enemies around you. The footage in the background here is actually a perfect example of what I'd say is the kind of location I mean. In cover, but with the potential to dash out and score a few kills here and there. Bonus points for overlooks a cap as well. So, pros? Good firepower, good mobility, good survivability, and it is very versatile. And the cons, like the previous, its armour just can't completely be relied on. Verdict? Of course, get it, it's been one of my favourite tanks Italy has to offer, and I'm sure you'll like it too. Just play smart and you can do practically anything. At 8.7 it is very competitive and will head the lineup off very, very well. Next up, we're going to go a little bit out of order and cover the premium vehicle next, as it's so similar to the OF40 Mark II. This is the OF40 Mark II MTCA. This premium is identical apart from the engine. It gets the Fiat MTCA 1000 horsepower engine as opposed to the 850 horsepower engine on the regular Mark II. And it is a pretty noticeable change. It's a lot more responsive, it accelerates much quicker and is overall faster. So this does make an already great tank better, but is it worth it? The thing we first need to think about is its obvious comparison, the Mark II, which is already a great, capable machine. The extra engine power it has is nice, but isn't necessarily necessary. The tank is already fantastic. It's obviously an objectively better vehicle, but I honestly think anything I've done in the MTCA I could have most likely done in the regular Mark II. The MTCA costs €60, whereas it costs about €14 to talisman the Mark II. Of course you do get it spaded and get a nice premium and silver lion bonus too, which does account for something, but it is a lot of money. Additionally, I would never advise that you buy a high tier vehicle when you have nothing else at the same tier to back it up with. If you only have one tank, however good it is, you're limiting your potential and the total potential of your team. For about €30 half price, you can get a talisman on the regular Mark II and a fair few others as you work your way up the tree. So there's a bit of a divide here. I'm going to say solely on a monetary basis, it's not worth it. However, as a vehicle and what it adds to a lineup, it definitely is. It's one of the best tanks at the tier, and if it ever goes on sale, I would definitely pick it up. But €60 is a lot of money, and for a single tank that's practically identical, I can't really advise you buy it. In the long run, there's more effective ways you can spend your money in the tree despite how well the tank performs. Right, very close to the end now. Next up is the Ariete P, or Pre-series. This is currently Italy's ultimate MBT design in the game, and well, it's good. Don't get me wrong, it's just not great. Mobility-wise, it's not too dissimilar to a stock Leo 2A4. It's fast, but not impressively so, and its static reactionary movement isn't very good either. It can't react very fast when still. Armour-wise, again, not super impressive. Its hull is paper, but the turret isn't awful. The M1 and the M1 IP can't pen the cheeks with either round. As well, the stock round on the Challenger Mark III and T64B can't pen it either, however, all the upgraded rounds can. And all of these rounds can pen the breach area. It does bounce some shots though, and I think that's because people do underestimate the turret armour a little bit. But it's in no way reliable. Firepower-wise though, it's good. It gets DM23 stock and DM33 as its tier 4 unlockable round. Both of these are great, and DM33 especially, I've had no problems with whatsoever. It does struggle a little bit with the TATU and the Leclerc, but with a well-placed shot, you can knock out basically anything. I've had a ton of one-shots using this round, and for 9.7, it's definitely far from bad. But seeing as you'll be seeing a lot of 10.0 games, the Ariete won't be able to play like other 10.0s. It's just not mobile enough, and its armor isn't good enough to roll around the map trading shots. But playing it a bit more reserved and passive actually works pretty well. Anything you hit, you'll likely pen, and anything you'll pen, you'll likely kill. Sniping and playing this thing defensively is where I've had the most success. Your turret will bounce, but not always. Also, unlike practically all other top tier MBTs, the turret is actually completely free of ammo. There's no rack in the back of the turret, so provided you're actually getting hit in the turret, you'll almost always survive at least one shot, unless you get very unlucky. The key to doing well in this tank is to hide your hull. If you can find a good sniping spot hull down, you'll really be a danger to the enemy team. I'd always aim to seek a spot like this out early game. Late game though, you have a better chance of driving out and playing, dare I say, normally, as later on in the game you'll probably start running into IFVs and some weaker backup tanks you can handle a little bit easier. Along these lines as well, it does absolutely stomp when you're top tier in 9.7 games. Anyway, pros, good hull down, and great firepower. And the cons, weak armor, and comparatively sluggish. Verdict, well, there's no need for me to do this really, of course, get it, you have to anyway. It's certainly not the easiest to use when compared to other top tier MBTs, but if you play it smart, you will definitely get results. Plus, getting good at this tank will really help you with the next one. Perhaps, maybe even a bit more than you might think. So, last but certainly not least is the true Ariete. Now, this might surprise some of you, but as of the time of recording this, the Ariete is pretty much completely identical to the pre-series. Same armor, bar a few extras on the roof and a bit of track on the front, and the exact same mobility. I was expecting more armor too, but apparently not. The only thing it does have over the pre-series though are the ammo options. First of all, it gets DM33 as its stock free round, which is pretty incredible. But it also gets the round you've probably heard about, the CL3143, which is currently the highest penning non-chemical round in the game against flat or angled armor. But to be honest, it doesn't really have as much of an effect as you'd think. It's great at lol penning T80s and the Leclerc, but it doesn't really have any other huge advantage. DM33 can still pen all the same weak spots, and I use the word weak spots there on purpose. Just because you don't need to aim for them anymore using this round doesn't mean you shouldn't. Sure, you can pen the Abrams anywhere, but still aiming for the weak spot, the turret ring from the front, will still give you the most reliable results. So, to be honest, the extra pen doesn't really make this tank incredible, even more so because it needs to pass through more armor to generate considerable spooling. If you shoot a tank flat in the side with the CL round, it'll generate very little spool, so even in some instances, the extra pen is actually a negative for it. Now, I'm not trying to underplay how effective it is overall though. It absolutely chews through T80s, allows you to fire a bit quicker than you would normally if it's a split second choice and you can't really take the time to aim. Say you just roll around the corner, you see another tank, you don't really need to aim for a particular weak spot, because you can point, click, and you will most likely penetrate unless you're very unlucky. So it's very forgiving like that, but you have no armor either, so they can do the exact same thing as you. The gun is definitely deadly, but it's not as unbelievably overpowered as it seems on paper. It's not game-breaking, and doesn't really make the tank more competitive. As its armor and mobility are identical, it still can't brawl reliably. You can afford to fire quicker in a knife fight, sure, but that line of thinking relies on you being on equal footing in a close quarters environment, which is rarely the case anyway. This thing does have arguably the deadliest gun in the game though, making it arguably the best possible sniper for top tier. So playstyle wise, it plays exactly the same as the Ariete P, but better in that you have DM33 stock and the choice of a round that will cut through anything you fight. But it just isn't as effective as it needs to be really competitive at 10.0. Anything it can do, for example, the Leo 2A5 can do pretty much, and then some. Sure, it doesn't get a lol pen round, but it does get DM33, which can still pen everything, just requires a little bit more aiming. As well as having a close to impenetrable turret, as well as having the mobility, and at a stretch the armor to brawl as well. The Ariete just isn't as reliable as its competition. but as a sniper, it really is close to unmatchable as long as you don't take too many shots. So, pros, good hull down, and incredible firepower. And the cons, weak armor, and comparatively sluggish. Now, there's no need for a verdict here really, this I guess is what you're aiming for. It's not the best, it's not the worst, but a worthy contender all the same. It offers, if anything, a very unique playstyle to top tier, very little armor but with a very good gun. It's top tier's quintessential glass cannon, and if that playstyle is something you're interested in, I'd say go for it. So, there we are guys, that is Italy completed for now. But before we finish off, of course, let's take a look at the lineups, and here they are, 8.7, 9.7 and 10.0. These three are the best in my opinion. I've neglected to have a mini aircraft segment here, as there just isn't really anything standout. The G91Y with its 4 £1,000 bombs is fine, and the Premium R3 with the Nords are again great, but with the current anti-air defense meta, these vehicles don't contribute a strong enough advantage to grind for in my opinion. The R3 costs €50, and the Y costs 400,000 RP, and then some to get the ordnance. I'd stick with the Pre-series or get the G91R1, which is similar to the Pre-series but with better overall performance and a smaller repair cost, which is very important for taking out a plane at top tier at the moment. It gets the same amount of Mighty Mouse rockets, which aren't a lot but are still enough to do well and get a lot of assists if you have clean skies and a good angle of attack. Right, there we are, Italy done. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this series as a whole. It's been a bit sort of inconsistent, I know, but hopefully for whatever I choose to do next, it's going to come a lot quicker. And I was going to ask you guys, what really would you like to see in the future? Because I do really enjoy making these videos, but they just take so long to make because there's so many vehicles to cover. I need to play them all like a good amount to understand how they work. And it's just going to mean I'm not going to be able to make videos as consistently as I want. So what sort of things should I really be focusing on? Because I'm not really sure. I've got a fair few ideas, but nothing really concrete to stick on for a while I can kind of get into the rhythm of just making stuff constantly. So just let me know what you'd like to see, and I will most certainly take it into account. So yeah, thank you all very, very much for watching, and for whatever video comes next, I will see you next time. Goodbye.